Let's start off with the news of today, and that, of course, coming from the IFC. The IFC, a member of the World Bank Group, announced a 300 million rand investment in Trustco Group Holdings to support its student lending activities in Namibia and to expand microinsurance into new countries in sub-Saharan Africa. Joining me in studio for a look at their strategy is Quinton van Rooyen, and Quinton is the Group Managing Director of Trustco Group Holdings. Quinton, thank you so much for joining us. Talk us through the nuts and bolts of this 300 million equity investment.
Yeah, well, the IFC decided to advance 300 million to Trustco, 200 million in debt, 100 million in equity, which will take their stake up to about 9.5% in total, which they will own in the company. And 200 million was a note program that we listed on the Johannesburg Stock Exchange of R1 billion, of which the first 200 million the IFC decided to take up.
Fantastic. Of course, this gives a very clear message of the IFC's confidence in your strategies and also in your operations. How are you planning to leverage this investment?
Yeah, well, half of it will go to Namibia to support the students there, more than 45,000 students. We've already advanced about 450 million to students in Namibia. And the other half will be deployed in South Africa in our micro insurance business model.
Very interestingly, of course, is the Trustco dual listing, knowing that you were listed on the Namibian Stock Exchange in 2006 and 3 years later listed on the Johannesburg Stock Exchange. How does this dual listing support your investor base?
Well, our largest retail investor base sits in Namibia. More than 3,000 Namibians own Trustco shares. And South Africa being the largest economy in Africa, we just thought at this stage, you know, it is the place to raise capital, it is the place to be visible, it is the place to make your mark, and if you want to compete and show that you can compete, South Africa is the place to be.
Of course, Trustco has alluded to the fact that you have a very clear strategy to go into emerging markets. Which markets are on your radar?
Well, markets like Kenya, Zambia, and even Angola, you know, for the microinsurance business model, you know, interests us very much. So we'll be looking at those. And I must also say, Brazil is also a very interesting market where microinsurance, we think, has also a bright future.
Of course, there's always the regulatory issues around microinsurance. I mean, if we look at microlending in general, we know that in Namibia, it's really a sector that has grown so fast, almost, in fact, exceeding the $1 billion mark in the last financial year. But on the same side, you have this contentious issues of the regulatory framework that is associated with microlending. As you go into other emerging markets, what are some of the regulatory issues that you're ready to take on?
Yeah, well, I must confess, it would have been much easier if we had one regulatory environment in Southern Africa, for instance, but it isn't to be at the moment. Our first point of call would always be the regulator, the local regulator in the country, make sure that we understand the laws and what the objectives of the regulators are, you know, in the countries that we intend to enter. But regulators are regulated, they need to be there. I think it brings confidence into a market, but well, if all the rules were the same, it would have been much easier, I must confess.
Of course, as we were chatting earlier, we just also found out that our next guest is actually a very prominent player as well in education finance, and I know that's a very big chunk of the business for Trustco. How do you differentiate Trustco from the traditional models of loaning for educational purposes?
Well, I think what's unique in Trustco is that we do not only loan. We loan responsibly, which I think is very important, firstly, and secondly, we also provide the educational course. More than 400 courses are provided in Namibia, from ICT courses to teaching teachers how to be better teachers, you know, upgrading their skills and qualifications. So that's what we do, and we think that is unique.
To a large extent, Quinton, one would think that a lot of your business then also depends on very strong government relationships in the different countries where you are operating. Is this an accurate reflection?
It absolutely is. And also in Namibia specifically, our government makes it possible for us to get our repayments direct from the payroll. They don't subsidize us, but they do make it possible for us to get payments very securely, to such an extent that our non-performing loans are less than 5% in Namibia, which we think is excellent.
So if we look at the numbers of the number of loans you've been able to issue to date, and we compare that with the targets that you've set for yourself, how big a scope are your targets as you not only seek to expand your operations into new markets, but also, I'm sure, want to grow your loan book?
Yeah, we've got an immediate target to be getting the loan book in the next financial year to 500 million Namibian dollars, which are equal to the rand, getting about 60,000 customers on the book. And may I say, we're doing 2,000 new students every month that we operate, and this loan, this funding line from the IFC will obviously, assist a great deal in making education, quality education, I think is the important word, make it available to more and more students. We battle to satisfy the market in Namibia, and I'm sure that's the same all around us in Africa.
Thank you so much, Quinton, for making the time to join us. Of course, that was Quinton van Rooyen. He is the Group Managing Director of Trustco Group Holdings.